Hey guys, Andrew Beckrider of MotorWorldHype.com, and in front of me is the new Logitech G920 steering wheel for the Microsoft Xbox One. If you remember, a little bit earlier this year, we had a chance to play with the wheel for a few minutes when we were previewing the Forza Motorsport 6 at E3, but that obviously wasn't enough time to give it a full-on review, so Logitech was kind enough to send us out a wheel for that specific purpose. So in this review, I'm going to play 3 different games: Forza Motorsport 6, Project Cars, and F1 2015 by Codemasters, and sort of see how the wheel feels in each of those different experiences. And then I'll give you all my pros and cons for the wheel, including not just how it plays in those games, but setup, material, quality, all that, price. And then once you have my overall impressions and pros and cons, then I'll leave it up to you to decide whether or not you think it's worth picking up for the $399 price tag. Also, if you couldn't tell already, the acoustics are kind of weird here. We actually had to do a quick makeshift setup in a spare room because we're running out of space. So excuse the ambiance, if you will. After this point, I'll go into voiceover mode to sort of cut down on the echoes. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with our review of the Logitech G920 wheel for the Xbox One. The Logitech G920 is one half of the company's return to racing wheel for consoles since the storied G27 wheel, which was released several years ago. These wheels actually came as a big surprise since Logitech made an announcement that they would be ending development on peripherals for consoles earlier this year. I guess they changed their minds. Internally, the Logitech G920 is the same as the G27, but with new Hall effect sensors for more accuracy. On the outside is where the G920 really sets itself apart from its older sibling. Unlike the G27, pretty much all the face buttons you'll need, including the D-pad, are on the face of the wheel. Because the G27's face buttons were limited, Logitech had to include the external shifter attachment, which had the additional buttons needed. However, since everything is now on the wheel itself, the shifter is no longer included. A bummer for sure for those who like the shifter, but it still can be had separately for $60. The G920 really looks the part with its leather-wrapped wheel and center stripes. I have sat in many a sports car and exotic car in my time, and I can say that gripping the G920 wheel feels satisfyingly similar to gripping a Porsche 911 or Mercedes AMG GT wheel. Unfortunately, the pedals don't really give off that same level of visual quality. While the pedal faces are metal with rubber grips, everything beyond that is plastic. Pedal feel is okay, but not the best I've tried. They are non-adjustable, so if they don't feel quite to your taste, you are kind of stuck with them. Logitech did make the brake pedal more resistant and stiff, but there were some issues with that, which I'll get into later. Since the G920 is very similar to the G27, it is compatible with many setups, including the Playseat Racing Revolution seat we are using here. To clean things up a bit, the G920 is designed to hide its cable connections underneath the unit. On the one hand, this does make things look a little bit neater, but on the other hand, it means if I have to disconnect one of the cables for any reason, I have to completely remove the wheel from the playseat. I am all for clean design, but not when it sacrifices convenience. Something else that I found somewhat disappointing is that it seems that the G920 does not have Xbox One's wireless protocol, which means it comes with a non-removable USB cable that has to be plugged into the Xbox One console for the wheel to work. I would have liked the G920 to be wireless so that there was one less cord to deal with. The first game I played with the G920 was Forza Motorsport 6. This would be my second time playing Forza 6 with this wheel. The first was during E3, but it wasn't enough time to really get a feel for how it plays with Forza. Now that I've had the chance to put in some time, I can say the G920 feels pretty good with Forza Motorsport 6. While the force feedback isn't the strongest I've ever felt, it was strong enough to provide real moments of fighting with the wheel when the car I was driving got squirrely. While there is a small center dead zone in the wheel, it is not nearly significant enough to affect steering response while playing. The one issue was when it came to braking. The braking dead zone must be adjusted in the game setting before playing. In its default settings, it is impossible to get to 100% braking no matter how hard the pedal is pressed. To get better braking feel, I recommend going into the advanced settings for the wheel and setting the deceleration outside dead zone to anywhere between 40 and 60, while the inside zone should remain at 0. This was the only real negative issue I had when using the G920, with Forza 6. Next up, I tried my hand at Project Cars. I had the highest expectations for the G920 with this game, since Slightly Mad Studios, the dev team behind Project Cars, actually worked with Logitech in the development of their new wheels. It definitely shows when going to the settings, as a full diagram of the G920 is represented on the screen when making adjustments. However, to Logitech and Slightly Mad Studios' credit, I had to do very little to get the wheel where I wanted it to be. The other plus is that there are way more adjustable parameters in Project Cars for the wheel than there are in Forza Motorsport 6, so more discerning drivers can very precisely fine-tune wheel settings to their liking. My only gripe is that these settings will probably have to be changed often depending on the type of car the player is driving in the game, so you have to really know what you're doing in that respect. The force feedback definitely felt stronger while playing Project Cars than it did when playing Forza 6, and while that small center dead zone remained, it really had no effect on steering precision for me at all. I can easily say that I had the best experience with the wheel with Project Cars. Finally, for a bit of a curveball, I wanted to try out Codemasters F1 2015. I didn't really know what to expect here since I don't think Logitech had F1 in mind when they released the G920 and G29 wheels. I'm also not so sure that Codemasters had any interaction with Logitech when they were developing F1 2015. However, it wouldn't be crazy to think that the G920 should still work well with just about any game that involves driving. Apparently, while it's not crazy to think that, it is definitely wrong. Now, the G920 isn't horrible with F1 2015, but it certainly is not ideal. The biggest issue with using the G920 with F1 2015 is the steering rotation. The G920 has about 900 degrees of rotation in either direction, but games that are developed with this wheel in mind have adjustments that can be made to accommodate varying degrees of rotation. However, that can't be done in F1 2015 to great effect. I found myself going hand over hand several times trying to navigate low speed and hairpin turns, and the options for adjustment are pretty limited, so I couldn't do much to fix it. This meant on tracks that have complex rhythm sections, I was pretty much screwed. Also, the force feedback felt the weakest in this game. Again, it could have been a lot worse, and playing F1 2015 on the G920 is certainly doable, but not ideal, at least not for the console version. More adjustments can be made with the wheel using the software it comes with on the PC, so perhaps it would be better used for PC versions of F1 2015 and other open-wheel racing games. Now that I've tried out 3 different games with the G920, I thought it would be a good idea to rank the games by how well they worked with the wheel. Third is F1 2015. The G920 worked with it, but its issues with steering rotation and limited adjustment options, and having weak force feedback, made using the wheel with this game not very fun. Second is Forza Motorsport 6. The game gave just enough force feedback to make things fun, and steering felt accurate. The only thing that hurt the experience was the brake pedal issue. In first place is Project Cars. The G920 and Project Cars were literally made for each other. There were no issues in its default settings, and there are plenty of options for fine-tuning wheel and pedal response. It also had the strongest force feedback. That being said, I will list my pros and cons for the Logitech G920, and from there you can decide if this is the wheel for you. I'll start with the pros. The Logitech G920 looks great visually, and I really like the leather-wrapped steering wheel. It has good force feedback, not the best I've ever felt, but it doesn't really need to be at this price range. It's good mid-range force feedback. The wheel is lightweight, so if I need to move it around, it's not heavy and it's not a pain to carry. Because the wheel is made by Logitech, it's easy to find at physical retail stores like Best Buy. Now for the cons. The G920 is a bit too expensive. It starts at $399. However, at Best Buy and Amazon you can actually find a G920 for $349, which I think is a much fairer price. There is no external shifter included, and it costs an extra $60. The G920 is not wireless, and it has that non-removable USB cord that you need to plug into your console. The pedals are not adjustable, so if they don't feel right to you at first, then you're kind of stuck with them. Finally, the G920 is a bit inconsistent, and by that I mean that the experience varies a lot depending on the game that you're playing. I would have liked to see Logitech work more closely with developers to make sure that there was a more consistent experience with the wheel across the board. We want to give a big shout out and thanks to Playseat Racing America for providing the Playseat Racing Revolution gaming chair that we used in this review. If you want a simulator chair like the one we used for yourself, then visit playseatamerica.com, where they have a wide selection of simulator chairs available, including branded options from Forza Motorsport, Gran Turismo, and even Red Bull Racing F1. You can find it all on playseatamerica.com. We also want to thank you for watching this review. If you found it helpful, please click the like button. And if you want to see more videos from us, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for watching.